Hey, it's Jennifer. Thanks for checking out my channel again. As some of you may know, November 22nd is the International Survivors of Suicide Loss Day. And if you've read my blog, you probably know that suicide prevention is something that is very, very important to me. When I was in high school, I lost my best friend Nick to suicide. And when I say best friend, that is by no means an understatement. We did everything together. After school, we were always together. Even in school, I actually canceled some of my classes and switched to different courses so that we could have more classes together. Yeah, we just couldn't go a minute without talking or seeing each other and just being goofy together. And we told each other everything. And the fact that we told each other literally everything is one of the reasons that for a very long time I couldn't forgive myself for Nick's death. Because I felt like I should have known. I should have known that this was happening. But the thing is, at the time, I didn't know the signs of suicide. I didn't know that, I knew suicide existed, but I never ever thought that it would happen to somebody that I knew, especially someone that I was so close with. Nick struggled with a lot of issues. He was gay, and we were in East Texas, small town, and so he got bullied a lot for that. But I always admired his strength because even through all the bullying and stuff, he always seemed to be so proud of who he was. Which is another reason that I was so completely blown away that he killed himself, because he always seemed so sure of himself and, he was proud of who he was. But looking back on it, there were a lot of red flags that, should have been raised in my mind. He would say things that were, at the time, he would say it jokingly, and I never really thought anything of it because I thought he was just kidding around. But, maybe there was some hidden truth behind those. I remember one time he said, being gay is hard enough. If I ever get an STD like HIV or anything like that, I'll probably just kill myself. But he said it laughing at the end, so I thought that he was literally just kidding. But now looking back on it, maybe he wasn't. He would also do, questionable things, things that were kind of outrageous or reckless. And, I just thought he was just, crazy, like party type guy. But he would say stuff like, I can be young forever. I don't have to worry about, anything happening because I do this, because I'm probably not going to live till I'm 30 anyways. And, that's another thing he said jokingly. So I was like, that's kind of funny, but it's not, because honestly in his mind, he obviously didn't see himself living past 30. Probably the one thing that he said that actually did alarm me and actually got me really upset was one night he called me and, he said, I want to read you something. And he was a poetry writer. So I was like, oh, cool. I get to hear one of his poems. But he said that he had read a book and it had inspired him to write down what he thinks that people would say at his funeral. And I immediately, got upset about it. I'm like, why would you want to think about that? And he's like, oh, it's not like sad or anything. It's just, it would be interesting to know what people would say about you after you would die. So he read me, what he thought that our other friends would say, what his mom would say, what I would say. And he was just totally cavalier about it, like it wasn't a big deal. And that really did upset me, but I still never thought that, he would take his own life. I just thought he was being kind of morbid, but obviously not. I know this might all seem really obvious, that he had, some instability or some suicidal thoughts. But to me, his friends, his family, we never saw it coming. We didn't know the signs. And that's why I want to make sure that you all know what some potential signs are so that you can help prevent suicide. According to the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention, in 2012, which was the last measured year in this subject, 40,600 suicides were reported in the U.S., which accounted for the 10th highest reason for death in the United States. That's alarmingly high. That equals a suicide death every 12.9 minutes that year. That's insane. Every 12.9 minutes, a family loses someone to self-harm. That is so, so sad. Another important thing to know about suicide is that it's not exclusive to one age group. I, for one, thought that suicide mainly happened among young people. Mostly you hear about, high school kids or kids in college committing suicide, but actually the highest amount of suicides happen between the age group of 45 to 59, and the second highest is 75 and older, which I had no idea. So it's not just something that you need to look out for in young people. It can happen at any age. Some signs that someone may be considering suicide as an option would be if that person talks about death, they're obsessed with death. Maybe they have chronic pain and they see death as an escape to that. Maybe they have more reckless actions, like more use of drugs and alcohol because they don't really care about the consequences. Another thing could be rage. They're angry at everybody for what seems to be no reason at all. It could even be withdrawal. Maybe they stop hanging out with their friends. They don't do activities they used to do. A lot of these are signs of depression, which actually brings us to another fact. I didn't know this, but 90% of people that commit suicide actually have a mental disorder. So a lot of our time is spent blaming ourselves because we lost someone to suicide. But really, if 90% of them have a mental disorder, we couldn't have fixed that. And that's why I want to encourage you to encourage people that you see that may have signs of suicide to go see a doctor, go to therapy, get on, any sort of regimen that will help them deal with the underlying issues that are causing them to have these thoughts. So I mentioned earlier that November 22nd is the International Survivors of Suicide Loss Day. And with that day comes a range of events in tons of cities. And at the events, they will be streaming a documentary called The Journey. And there will be, discussion, Q&A with other survivors of suicide and some experts. If you're like me and you live in a city that is far away from any event, you can actually stream it online at survivorday.org. And what you'll be streaming is a 90-minute presentation. It'll have the documentary and it'll have a Q&A. And if you get online early, you can even submit questions for the Q&A. And there's going to be some really awesome information on this streaming event. And I will definitely be attending. I encourage you to attend. Even if you haven't lost anyone to suicide, it's just good to learn more about the signs, how to cope, how to help others cope if you know someone that has lost someone to suicide. So I encourage you to go there. Even if you don't have time to stream it or go to an event, go to afsp.org and learn more about what you can do to support people, what you can do to give yourself more information about suicide prevention, and even encourage it in your area. I love you all, and I hope you have a wonderful day. Mwah!